I was totally talking on camera and I didn't even go live. I'm so sorry. Um anyway, uh so I was just explaining the backflip logic that I implemented yesterday. So if you remember this from the post, um yes, Cena can do it too. See, look at the acrobats. Um the So I was just explaining that um so what I wanted to do, well, I don't really have a real plan today. I just kind of wanted to get on stream and maybe explain some of the stuff for the next video, but I'm open to taking questions or we could just kind of like talk, just game dev and chat kind of thing. Um, I'm not sure if I'll be in a regular cadence again with streams. They're not like super popular, but it's also not really even that. It's like I do have a streaming audience, so it's like kind of worth it just for you guys. But it's also just I have sleep issues, so I just don't even know if I'm even gonna be awake for a stream. So it's a so yeah. So that's kind of the thing. Anyway, the so I'll go ahead and just talk about the backflip logic. Um, so basically, the way the backflip works is you do that. It basically works this way: is you when the when the down button is pressed, start a timer. Basically, um, when the down button is released, stop the timer, and then if the timer is less than a threshold, invoke backflip. Hey, welcome to the stream. First time. Thanks for coming. I will warn you, I don't have a great streaming voice. I tend to a lot. I don't mean to do it. I guess I just don't have that kind of talent or practice. But yeah, we just kind of chill on these streams. Um, I have to set up an avatar at some point, just like a little guy in the background. So, no Twitch, only on YouTube right now. I have to look into that though. Is if I do end up streaming more frequently, I could certainly look into cross streaming. Um, I just like haven't yet. Um, Also, the streams are also a fairly underdeveloped content stream on my channel. Maybe if it's something I do more often, I could look into it. I'm still just not 100% sure because I have sleep issues. But ideally, it's like every Sunday I do a short stream, like an hour or so. So we'll see. The Yeah, so this is the backflip logic. Here's the actual code. Um, Actually, before I get into that, let me go ahead and talk about the question that we have on the chat here. Got any tips for someone who's new to game dev? All right. So the answer is I think everybody has their own specialty when it comes to game dev. It's what makes it such a cool thing to do. Is like, we got people who are more artistically inclined, or people who are more programmers. You know, some people are composers. Or even writers. I think it depends on what you kind of want to make and what you're. I think what I would say is understand your own limitations and understand whether you can work around them, or work with them, um, or if you need to look for, a team to patch those limitations. But at the same time, ultimately, it really is just set your own goals, set your own expectations. Like for me, I want to make a pretty big project, so I'm going to have to put a team together and actually make this work. I'm going to have somebody who's better at art than me because I'm not the best artist. And I'm going to need composers and all this stuff. So right now, I'm kind of in a prototype phase. So if I get a prototype working and I can prove that the game is fun, then it can help me find people to actually work with, and eventually, hopefully, funding too. Um, but some people just are in it just to make like small proof of concepts. There's plenty of people who do tech demo type work, and they make really impressive stuff. Um, I would say just figure out exactly what it is that you want to make, and then from there you could figure out a plan. Maybe your plan is just you want to do everything yourself, so you just have to spend the time upskilling. Um, yeah, okay. Also, we just got a comment here. There's a small but growing community of Godot devs on Twitch. That is nice to know. All right. Thank you. And then also, yeah, programming takes a little bit of time to get used to. I've been programming for how long now? Since, wow, I don't know. It's like over 15 years. So, and I program my day job. So I I'm I'm more of a programmer than anything else. So it's a some of it just comes with experience, honestly. Yeah, GD script is definitely a lot easier, and there's no shame in using tools that are meant to be easier, um, especially if you're starting out. Like when I started game development, there was a tool called Game Maker. It still exists today, but it's a lot different than the tool that I used um, way back. So it's that had a drag and drop system that you could write code in it, but I used the drag and drop system in that, and then eventually I got interested and I learned how to code. Um, for programming, I would just say start with the basics, and then I think the fastest way to learn is also just to like build things. Like I would say start with the very basics. Like just understand like what an array is, understand what functions are, or parameters are, that kind of stuff. And then after that, just build stuff. Use tools like Google. Don't be ashamed to do that. ChatGPT, totally do that too. I do want to clarify, I don't condone necessarily using AI art for a finished product, but if you use AI to help you code, totally fine. Um, or if you use AI to help you ideate, totally fine. Um, I think AI is a little bit of a weird subject, but just pretend AI is just a better Google, right? So if you ask ChatGPT, how do I implement this thing, then it can give you some ideas. It's not always going to be correct, though. So that's why you just have to keep plugging in code, testing, just test your game often. Um, yeah, that's great, though. And I think what you just kind of find is that as you're learning, it becomes fun because you're making progress. Um, in some ways, I wish I was beginner again because it was just so much fun learning how to make games when I first started. Now it's like I know a good amount of stuff, and it's just like it's still fun, but it's just not the same. Anyway, just wanted to go back and talk about the backflip logic real quick. Um, the the logic, yeah, basically I just said is you press a button, it starts a timer. When the button released, it stops the timer, and then if it's less than the threshold, it starts the backflip. Um, Otherwise, move back like normal, right? So, so we got these variables here, which is just a time. So we're not starting a literal timer. Yeah, no problem. I hope that helps. Um, yeah, so we're not doing a literal timer, but it's just going to be a variable that we increment by delta, as you see here, in the physics process function. And then in the unhandled input, we do. So let's see, yeah. It's say if it's down, start the timer. If it's released, check the actual timer, and if it's this meets the threshold, then just trigger the back step. And then the back step, I set it up with an animation tree. So if we go back here, so if you did see my most recent video, I did talk about this animation tree a little bit. I enhanced it to include the back steps and the side step here. Um, and I added an additional transition node here. I could hypothetically turn this part into the state machine. Um, it shouldn't be too complex because there's only a few actions that you do with movement, even though there's 100 attacks, so this stays the way it is. Um, but basically, you set this transition to back, and then she does the back step animation. Right, you get the idea. Um, One thing that was, yes. So one thing that was a little bit of a gotcha was, remember how I said I had the auto advance in my attack one here? So the attack auto advances back to movement. That works fine. But here, if I click auto advance, it actually auto advances back to right step. So if I do the back step, it goes to the right step, then to the idle lock, which is not what I wanted. So just to remedy that, I have this allow transition to self. Um, the So I have this transition to self here, and then in addition, I just have to make sure in the code I'm always setting the. So when the animation finishes, I'm just always setting it back to the idle lock, and then it works fine. So that's pretty much the logic. Um, so let's see. You'll and you can sidestep too. So what is the application of this? Well, once I implement enemies, which will happen eventually, um, there's gonna have a little intent bar, and then this bar fills up, and when it fills up, the enemy is going to execute. an intent, which would be like an attack or a block or something like that. So when you're attacking as a character, you want to make sure that you want to be able to react. So ideally, what will happen is the enemy will fill up the intent bar, and then they're going to counter attack. You just press the dodge button, and then you dodge it. And you can dodge this way, that way. I got to implement the left one too, but I have to figure out how to mirror the animation. So yeah, that's the idea. It's So what's next? So I wanted to take a little bit of time and do a little organizing. Um, so I do still have this entity systems, which I still think I want. Um, there's a battle scene. I don't know if I still want this. Um, because the idea is that these are always the same. Um, so I think what I'll do. Can do a little refactoring here. So funny thing is, for that animation, I'm using Cascader. I don't know if you've heard of it, um, but I'm starting to learn how to use this software, and it's a little bit of a learning curve. Blender does have a mirror function. I think I could figure it out in Blender, um, but Cascader, I'm not sure how to do it. So Cascader is great um, because uh, it's great because it does a lot of the animation in between for you. Um, so like you focus on the keyframes and then you just have it interpolate. Okay, yeah, she glitches here, but I'm not an animator, so I'm not going to bother with fixing that right now. Um, but yeah, so here's the backflip, and then recent. So what I want to do is whenever this opens, yeah. Yeah, so I just want to basically take this entire thing and mirror it, which I'm not sure how to do. Um, what if I, because I tried this mirror tool, it doesn't seem to do anything. Do I have to select it? There we go. Okay. So if I do, wow, thanks guys. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna duplicate this file. So she currently sidesteps to the right. Let me make one that sidesteps to the left. Um, save as sidestep left. And then I think I do it this way. So go to mirror tool, mirror on interval, and then let's see what happened. Oh, um, what happened? Okay, some glitching. I'll do. Ah, crap. Okay. All right. Let's do it this way. I could do it one at a time. All right. So this frame, mirror it. Current frame, go here. Mirror current frame, here. All right, your current frame. What? Uh, uh, Spoke too soon. Yeah, you know what? I think it's because I have the auto posing. Let me go here and then mirror. Better. Okay, good. Um, Same thing here and then here. There we go. It's working now. All right. Let's watch it from back here. So yeah, she does a little bit of a jump and then back. All right, good. Yeah, this looks good. All right. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and export it. Side step left. Is it free? Not really. Um, I was grandfathered into their indie license, which does give me some access, and it was free for me. But the indie license is fairly cheap. I think I could find the website. Here we go. Yeah, so this there is a free version. It doesn't give you a lot of options though. Um, like you can't export out of it for free. Um, Indie license, it's like you can't. Yeah, your revenue must be less than 100K per year. That kind of thing. You get commercial use with no limits. Some animation retargeting, stuff like that. Um, I wanted to actually get used to it before I went and bought a license because um, I don't really want to spend 23 a month uh, yet. Yeah, so I do have access to some of the stuff. So it would be cool to have access to animation retargeting. Um, I think that would be super cool. Um, I don't know, just some stuff. So you could do the indie license and you can export to FBX. You just don't. You actually probably won't even need the. Yeah, yeah. You can't export it. That's the problem. So it's a indie license is 6 a month, which I guess is okay. But what are you gonna do? Um, yeah. So okay. Now I have my left side step. Let's go ahead and get that in here. Uh, Make that a animation library. Yeah, so now I'm just going to implement the left side step here. So yeah, I think if I click this, you can see. Yep. So there's a little bit of complicated stuff that I have set up in my game right now. Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty good deal, I would say. Um, I don't think you really need the retargeting and the extra features of Pro. Like you could still work with the indie version. Um, Excuse me, just taking a drink. So let's see. So what I do here is I need to do one thing here in the import setting. So in Godot I set up this retarget here, um, and this retargets my rig to um, like a base set here. So like this here's the spine, here's the head, here's these are all the rigify bones that got mapped. Um, so I had to do all this. There's a root. Um, and then the reason I have to do this, because normally I wouldn't have to do this, but if I didn't do this, then when you map the same animation to a different character, that different character would be like floating in the air, or it wouldn't quite work right because the heights don't match. So I had to set up this retarget system here. Um, I just mapped all the bones, and that will allow for both characters to actually be able to use the animations, and it will actually match their heights properly. There's a little bit of a side effect with this though. Um, so with the hands, I tried to map it the best I could, but you'll see that the yeah. So are you asking about retargeting and cascader? Yeah, I think it would just be if you want to use like one of their example cascader animation like rigs, you could do that and then retarget it to a Mixamo rig or to another rig that you have that like matches your character. Um, I think that's what that means. You could do the same thing in Blender with an add-on. The that's what that'd be for. The retargeting I'm talking about here just prevents an issue with heights not matching, so that's why I have to do it here. But there is a little bit of a side effect here. So I have to use this retarget modifier, and then I can remove the unmapped bones and re-import it. If I go to, let's see, I'm going to load it. No, don't apologize. Part of the reason I do these streams is so I could talk to people. So, totally fine. It's not like I'm really doing anything that important anyway. So, um, okay, so the animation is in, so that's good. Um, so one of the side effects of the retarget here in Godot is that, see, it renames all of these. Um, if you want custom bones, for example, like a weapon bone to be in the animation, then it erases them unless you use a specific setting. But then it keeps other bones too that I don't really want to be in there. Oh, it's built in. For the most part, I really didn't do anything extra to Godot. I made a small add-on to like help me with setting up the Springbone simulator, but that was it. Um, and it's barely like anything I could publish or anything. So it's, let's see, where could I show that? So it's tools. Here we go. Generate jiggle physics. That's what I did. Um, and what it does is it creates this spring bone simulator node, and I have right now it's hard coded. Um, yeah, it's hard coded. But what I did was I specify different bone names and then like their configurations, and then it will loop through the character's bone hierarchy and apply the spring bone. Because doing this manually is very time consuming. So I just wanted a way to be able to test them quickly. So that was that. So let me show another animation. So this one right here. Yes, absolutely. Um, you don't understand. No, I'm just kidding. The So this here, when I used the retargeting for this attack, I needed to import the original skeleton as well as the general, because the original skeleton has I don't know why it has keyframes on all of these, but but there's a bone here, the weapon bone. Where the heck is it? Okay, here we go. This I need because um, the animation does a little spinny thing. So right there. Um, so that's an extra bone that I had to supply. So to do that, uh, I had to change the setting here to not remove the bones. Instead, it's just unmapped bones or none. So it does keep it. So at least that one has a spinnies in it. The Okay, now let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and do sidestep left, right. So that to go here. I have a parent scene for this. I'm not sure if it's really good. I might have to I might have to do reorganize that a little bit, but that's fine for now. And then over here it is sidestep left animation. And then here I gotta add I'll move it up. There we go. There we go. Alright. Save that. Let's make sure she's got. Yeah, but it's here. And then alright. Then I have to go and edit the code. And I'm just going to have to do and then alright, this should hopefully work now. Nice. All right. Cool. And then I actually have to go into scene a scene and also import the animation. So let me do that. Yep. It is Godot. Yes. Welcome. Now I just implemented this stepping thing here. So character can dodge to the left and to the right now and backwards. So that's what I was just doing. Yep. So there is one challenge. If I want to move just a little bit to the right, then she just kind of steps. Yeah. Yes, I use VS Code for several reasons. It's not perfect though because I have to switch windows to go and debug Godot, and if I fire the game from here, which I can do, I have to change the version of Godot every time um, in these settings. Which so if I debug, I tend to prefer using the built-in editor. Yeah, it's loading everything, so it's slow. Oh, yeah. It's broken here because it's using a different version of Godot. Um, so, but I'm used to using VS Code um, from my day job, so I like this as a comfortable environment. It's a lot easier to navigate code, I find. I could do things like replace things quicker. Um, Plus, this also has Copilot enabled, so that helps too. Um, so that's the idea. It's so I stick with it for now. But I go back and forth because if I need to do a serious debug session, it's a lot easier to use the built-in editor for that. We're doing, yeah. I am working. So I worked on this back step, side step uh, thing. That was what I was just doing here. So okay, so what's tips for implementing mechanics into your own game? Trying to think how I could answer that. The so I think just because I'm a programmer by trade, it's a little bit intuitive to me. But typically, when it comes to it, um, I first I need to understand exactly what it is I want to implement. Um, so, for example, the back step that I just did, um, I have to do. I was gonna say. I have to think about what exactly it is I want to make first, right? So the actually, I'll just keep the game open for now. The So I kind of have a vision in my head what it's going to look like. Sure, it doesn't look exactly super great, but it works. Um, but I always think it would look something like that. Then I need to think about where I would make the changes to make it work. So since this only affects the player, um, then I should really only have to make a change in that class. So um, I would also say too that if you're building a game, start small ish. Not like make a small game per se. Like I don't really believe in that. But I mean like break down the tasks as you can. Um, if you're saying I want to build a combat system, think about what kind of things you need in your combat system. And then I think this also really just kind of comes from experience, to be honest. Like I've been coding for a long time. Um, um, but yeah, the but like I think you could start by saying, okay, combat system, I need players and enemies, but I also need something that helps control state too. So that's why I think with there's a battle controller, there's a player, and then there's an enemy, right? Um, some of this stuff I've organized as entities and stuff like that. Remember, code refactoring can come later. I tend to have a habit where I try to make the code as good as I can when I first start, but that doesn't. It never lasts. So I feel like I'm always going to hate the code I generate. Sometimes it's like just like that, but it's. So that's what I think. It takes some experience, but um, great way to learn is also just I think if you're a beginner, try to find a tutorial for someone building a game similar to what you want to make, and then they can help you architect it. Dividing into a reverse skills tree. Kinda. I guess you could think of it as how high people charge. Yeah. So I saw in the chat here. Feel free to self promote. I don't care. I also think it's great that the community wants to do things like that. So definitely feel free to do that. So I don't have a problem with that. And you're not spamming, so it's totally fine. Um, the Yeah, to answer your question about a reverse skill tree, kinda. I guess it really depends on how you would view a skill tree being implemented. Um, yeah. Where was I? All right. Every time I task switch, I have to like go back and play the game and figure out where I was. Okay. So sometimes it does the dodge when I don't really want it to. So I think I'm gonna try something here. Uh, don't really make a character. Yeah, no worries. Don't do something you don't feel comfortable with. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. So no worries. I do not see the link. I don't know if I have to enable something. Yeah. Funny enough, one of the things I'm hoping to do at some point is to build a team. So I'm definitely on the lookout. So if there's people who have skills, artistic skills, I think I'll want to reach out at some point. So um, only if there was interest, of course. I don't want to pressure anybody, but I'm also not quite ready for that yet. But um, so that's kind of what I was saying. It's like, yeah, yeah, I'll have to find people. I have very basic rudimentary art skills, but nothing more than that. So I definitely could use some help there. Um, but yeah, I have to. Once I get to a certain position, I will have to do that. Anyway, I was going to make a tweak. So rather than using um, these, I want to do fetch is pressed. Let's do it this way. Let's see. Should go away. I want to see what happens. This might make it worse. Okay, feels a little bit more. Hmm. Yeah, I have to figure out exactly. Yeah, because she should still be able to walk in circles. I just don't want the input to feel accidental, you know what I mean? Um, Nah, I appreciate that comment. Yeah. It's like it looks okay. Um I see like the art I would say is probably good, but not great, right? Um So that's kind of what I would say. And I don't want to raise myself higher than it is, but but yeah, it's supposed to have like a simplified toon anime style, so that's what I was going for. I like to work within the confines of my own skill set, so if I can at least make something decent for now, and then eventually we can enhance the art to make it look really good with the right people. But the I also was truthfully just wanted to see how this style will look in the game. Um, maybe there's some room for the simplified style to work. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'll put an environment together at some point. Am I planning on Easter eggs? Yeah. Am I planning on Easter eggs? I want this game to be complete. So yes, there will definitely be some Easter eggs. I don't know what they are yet, but um, I want to do stuff like that in the game. So it feels sort of like a complete experience. So this game's going to take a lot of time to make. The way I kind of see it is that I'm probably going to be developing this into 2030, or at least hopefully 2030 is the time the game would release. So that gives me 4 years. And hopefully between this year and 2027, I can get my prototype completed. And then from there, I can use the last 3 years to, you know, build a team and get content together. So that's kind of my plan right now. I still have to build the rest of the systems too. So I have to build the enemies and the combat system. I have placeholders for all the effects and stuff like that. You notice there's critical hits and stuff. Um, the I want to build a cutscene system. That's one thing I'm really excited about trying to do is build a cutscene system that kind of feels like a AAA cutscene system where like I could use like mocap animations or something like that. Or what I'll do is similar to mocap. So I want to try that too. And then I'm working on like a somewhat of a or I'm still working on the design of the game. Um, in a sense, there's a but the gameplay loop kind of so sorry. So it's not going to be like a traditional JRPG in the sense that there's like an overworld. Rather, it's going to kind of feel more like I guess if you've ever played like a Fire Emblem game, um, or even kind of like Three Houses in a way, where like there's going to be like towns and you could do activities in those towns, and then you can then also, and then each node on the world map is a combat. So the combats are going to be designed to be a bit longer than your traditional combat. Yeah. So it's so that's what it's going to kind of look like. And then I'm writing a story for the game, and I'll get a writer to help me refine it too. So there's a lot of inspiration from my own life I want to put into this game. Sorry. What made me choose Godot? I don't like Unity very much. Um, but that was but back in 2020, I really I guess I could kind of say fell in love with Godot. Because during the pandemic, I kind of picked up my game development hobby again more seriously, and then for a couple years I couldn't do it. But the what I liked about Godot is I saw it was a budding community, and I wanted to be part of a community that where something they were building something great. And since my game was such a big game idea, I wanted to test the limits of the engine and see if there was ways that we can help improve the engine too through the process. So um, that's kind of what I was hoping. So by making a game of scope like this, we can kind of see what the limitations of the engine are, and then hopefully use that as an opportunity to help grow the engine too. So I really like that aspect of it. Also, I just like the interface. I feel like the way scenes are organized is more intuitive than Unity's prefabs. Um, so that's kind of the reason for it. Um, there is actually a whole video I made on this on my channel. If you're interested, it's called "Why I Believe in Godot." Um, the I talked about that, and that was around the time Unity did the price changing. Stencil compositor on the world environment not working. Yeah, haven't really used that, but they did recently add the stencil buffer, so that's why the characters can have thick outlines on the outside. So I did add that stencil buffer to the character, so helps make the style bold. So I'll have to optimize this a bit though, because right now the materials have a tune outline and then the stencil buffer, because I need the outline for the insides, like for the inner parts too, like kind of like where her hand, like this outline here, or like around the head. Um, hey, thanks for joining the stream, and I appreciate it. Um, would you please explain how a complex stat system would be for your typical RPG in Godot? As much as I can currently show. Let's see. So I got character here. So my game's stats are a lot different than your typical RPGs. Um, you got, but like I created a resource file. Let's see, where is it in these characters? So what I do is I created a resource file in Godot. So I made this custom resource. See if I can find it. So I made this custom resource, and there's a and this allows me to basically specify like what kind of stats I want to use. And then I made another one called character base, so that I can make export variables so that I can edit this in the editor. So that's why I created, so these have these parameters here, right? Um, so I could go in here and just give her a lot of strength. And I think she just, yeah, there you go. One shots everything. So there you go. So could do that. Um, so doing it as a custom resource helps. You just have to make sure that whenever you create like your logic in your game, um, so like here's the player. Well, here's the player script. I put this data here. Um, so this character data, and then that is how it links together. Yeah, the base stat bonus thing is yeah. So there's bonus stats as well. Um, the game's gonna have a bit of a complex skill tree. Um, Actually, I could show this. So right now I have a pool of, let's say, what is this, 142 skills just for one character. Um, and then there's going to be conditions for what the character can see. Um, so yeah, so there's just this really large skill tree um, that will happen, and this is only one character too, so I got my work cut out for me. Um, yes, the but the idea is I want there to be a large pool of skills because it's not expected for a character to have every single skill learned in a single playthrough. Um, there's a mechanic in the game where the character can invest into red, green, or blue, and those affect what you can learn and your stats and all that stuff. Um, so yes, ideally every character will have a similar skill tree. Um, there's like 8 or so playable characters right now, so that's or in design in spreadsheets at least. Um, the so that's why a skill tree is so large, but the idea is that I keep working on that spreadsheet and implement them in the game as I go, and then eventually we'll just have that whole pool. So it will be useful for that reason. So it's a so that's kind of why I was saying that. Also, to go back to this other question that I just saw in the chat, what is the central fantasy of my game? I'm not sure I understand the question, but the if you've ever heard of an isekai anime, and truthfully, when I came up with the idea for this game, this was before isekai really existed, or at least in the mainstream form that we know now. But basically, the idea is that there's this fictional world that was built as the brainchild of a person from the real world, and that person was eventually migrated to the fictional world. And then later on, like 25 years later, um, there are 3 boys who travel to this fictional world, and then they kind of find that there's some conflicts in there. Um, so this is the main heroine of the game, Kyla. But she actually doesn't really come into the story till later. But but she's one of the characters I have developed the most, so I just kind of keep her here. Um, taking notes to Patton, please don't. So truck con, nope. The characters don't die; they go through a teleporter. Um, nope. The truck gets a break for once. Yeah. So I had some ideas about like having 2 story arcs, but I think I'm gonna scrap that idea and still have it maybe like one singular story. But I do want to have a mechanic. Where is it? Here we go. Um, so yeah. So I will admit, I've done a lot more on paper than I have done in the game engine. So that's why there's a lot of this stuff. Um, but there's where is it? So yeah, here's the design document. Um, so I thought about implementing this system called moods. Um, the so like if you remember, I said from earlier, like Fire Emblem Three Houses, kind of similar to that, where each character has a mood score, and if it's high, then they perform better in combat and stuff like that. And then there's an activity system that I was hoping to do. So just like little mini games, or I think the Yakuza games do it, but I've never played them. Um, but like similar mini games, and like you could also have characters chat with each other. Yeah. So it's kind of like a game in itself. So like if you keep your character's moods high, then you get bonuses, but you don't get punished if your character's moods are low. Um, so it's one of those things. And then there's this bond system. So characters will this I'm still working on, but the idea is that when you have the characters participate in mini games with each other, or combat, or just kind of have conversations, they can build bonds, and then when they have strong enough bonds, they can pass skills to each other. So that large skill tree gets even larger. Um, so yeah, that's the idea. Um, the Right now, I'm focusing mostly exclusively on the combat system. Although I did take a small detour to um, build this UI. Where is it? Yeah, here. Mostly because I just wanted to mess with Godot's UI system. But yeah, this is how like the weapon system would work. Um, so I would go ahead and say, okay, I each character equips three weapons, and they can cycle between them in combat. So they always have it three weapon slots. And then here you would go ahead and say, here you can see the stats of the weapon. You can equip the effects on them, and then the arts that are equipped to each weapon. So their basic art is always attached. You can't change that. Um, but you can go and change like the other ones, such like that. So that I did that as well. Let's see. Um, all right. So oh, all right. So what next? Let's see. Uh, Yes, I would like to try to get localization working. I have to build localization in there at some point. Um, the the cutscenes and the voice language will be English, um, unless unless I find a localization team or something in the future. But that assumes the game's actually good and it sells. Um, but yeah, I want to go all in. Um, yep. So let's see. Sorry, just taking a swig. Um, yeah, I think for the text languages, you could probably do. I'm sorry, could probably do a large amount of work there, or support a large amount of languages for the text. Yep. Okay, so I have. Okay, so this works. I'm wondering if I want to. So tapping the button. Yeah, tapping the button has its issues because it makes you unintentionally input. I might have to rework that. Um, I have a controller here. Let me boot this guy up. Hmm. With the controller, it's even worse. All right, I'm gonna figure out something there. Um, does this All right. So there is a library for this. Yeah, there'll be some NPCs just because you kind of need to fill the world with something, but I'm not really focused on NPCs that much. I want to see how necessary they really are. I'll probably just put like a couple of them out there. Not all of them actually talk to you. They just kind of do their own thing. Um, let's see. All right. I'm gonna comment this out for a sec. See if I can move the character. Okay, I can move the character with the stick. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do... Does L1 do something? Hold on. Yeah, it switches your weapon. Alright, the triggers don't do anything, so I could do... Alright, okay. Alright, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to change the way this works. I'm going to have you hold a button instead. Instead of tapping the buttons. So let's see, attack basic, special one, change enemy type. Alright, create a new one. I'm going to call it dodge. Where did it go? Okay, so we're going to add a key here, shift. And then also L2. Alright, cool. So we got dodge. Alright. So now I can change this code. If event dot is action pressed dodge, and then I could do this. If action is released, move down, and state is active. We could do it like this. And then I could go remove this code. And then remove this. So now I could do... Okay, so I need to do... It doesn't quite respond, so let's see if input dot is action pressed. Let's try it this way. Alright, cool. Okay, so now that's a lot better. I could hold the shift key and then press down, left, or right to dodge. So now there's no accidental inputs. I'm sorry, were you asking me a question there about the fantasy of your game? Yeah, feel free to share if you feel comfortable. Um, Alright, so boop. Let me make one other tweak. it works now. Instead of release, though, I want to make these action pressed. Yeah, I do like the idea of actions having consequences in games. I don't always comprehend it because it feels like those trees get so large, but a little different from the skill tree I have in my game because I think there's a more systematic approach to that. But I like it. I think that's really solid. Um, Anything that's story driven also has place. I feel like for sure. Um, so that's cool. Um, so let's see. Okay, so I want to try something. Okay, now I can hold the button and she just keeps dodging. Nice. I'm just gonna have him do acrobatics here because it's fun. Yeah. So okay. So this is cool. All right. Let's try it with the controller now. All right. Cool. The game is glitching now. All right. Hmm. I'll have to figure out. It looks like it's a controller thing. Okay, so it looks like there's a controller glitch. I'm not sure how it is, but it is a. I'll have to look into that later. Anyway, I'm sorry, I feel a little tired, so I'm gonna end the stream here. But I think you could all still talk. Um, I'm not sure if it closes it out or not. I'm not sure how that works. Um, but I appreciate everyone who joined today. It looks like we got a pretty good attendance, so I appreciate that a lot. So it's good to hear about your own projects as well. So thanks for coming on. Um, and maybe I'll see you next weekend. So thanks, everybody.